Shalom. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. This is the brother Shabai coming back at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. And today I'm going to read out of the book of Deuteronomy, and we're going to go into 13th chapter in Deuteronomy. All right, and it's going to be reflecting on warnings against idolatry, okay? And idolatry is basically when you put anything above, ahead, or prioritize it above the Most High, which our people are guilty of, since the beginning of history, okay? Since the beginning of mankind, the Israelites, have basically committed adultery over and over. And this is a serious offense. Obviously, it's really offending the very first commandment, okay? So let me first grab that. Let's see. It's going to be in Exodus. Let's see here. Actually. Exodus 20, and I think it's verse 3 is the first commandment. So let's go to Exodus. Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. It says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." So no other gods should be before the Most High, okay? And let me just get that definition for you for idolatry. Idolatry definition. Alright, it says extreme admiration, love, or reverence for something or someone. Alright, so you worship. Other words are worshiping. Right? So even a woman can be an idol. If you worship your woman too much, or even if you worship your woman at all, that's an idol. Okay? You have to be careful with idolatry, because pretty much anything can become an idol. Alright? So let's read Deuteronomy 13:1. It says, "If there arise among you a prophet, or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, Let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them." Alright, so if you have somebody who's trying to entice you to take you out of this truth, saying, "Hey, let's go to the Catholic Church." You have a woman, she's like, "Well, you know what? Baby, I've been going to this Catholic church for, 10 years, and I would like you to go with me." Now, do you go? Hell no. You have to be a man and set the order, set the precedence, and we ain't going to that damn church, If she wants to go and commit that idolatry, then, that's on her. But as a man of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, you never let a woman or anything entice you, right? Let no man take away that crown, and let no woman take away that crown, okay? So it says, "Let us go after other gods which thou hast not known, let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, your power proveth you, to know whether ye love Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, your power, with all your heart and with all your soul." Okay? So this is how, acceptable men are tried in the fire, right? Like it tells you in the Apocrypha. in the furnace of adversity. So you have to be have integrity. And just because you're with some woman, it don't matter how fine she is, how big her booty is. She might have the most firm titties you ever had your whole life. That shit don't matter. You don't follow her into that madness, okay? And I've seen men stumble because of a woman, right? You see men all the time like, oh, I used to be in the truth, but this woman that I'm with, she didn't want me to go to camp anymore, or whatever the case is. Or I had this one dude, I was having a conversation with him, and we know the laws on getting what do you call it? Cuttings in our flesh, right? You're not to have any cuttings in the flesh, so that would exclude you from getting that jump shot that they were offering us in circa 2020, 2021 during the time of the pandemic, right? You had some men, they were in the truth, and I had a conversation with this one dude, Jake, big old Jake, Judah. But even though it didn't matter how big his stature was or how manly he looked, but he was following his woman to do wickedness, all right? He didn't remember the verse, never trust thine enemy. And his words were, what he told me was, he's like, because I asked him, we had gotten on the topic, the conversation went to the topic of the jump shot, right? The vaccination, right? And I said, well, did you take that thing? And he's like, well, man, I wasn't gonna do it. And then he said, you know what, my wife, she's a nurse, so I just wanted to support her, and so I ended up getting the jump shot, and whatnot. And that's a foolish thing, Don't matter if your woman's a nurse or whatever, even if if you want to be in line with Yahweh Hashem Yoshai and that's walking that spirit, hey, you know what? The Most High can always provide His elect a new career, a new job, a new way to make money, a new way to survive. If they're, the powers that be are saying, hey, you need to take this jab or you're going to lose your job. And guess what? Tell them to kick rocks if you're in the spirit. But if you're not in the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yoshai, you're going to do what that dude did. You're going to go and follow a multitude to do evil, right? Let's get that precept. Follow a multitude to do evil, KJV. All right. So it's going to be in Exodus 23 and 2. You don't, just because everybody's doing it, man, doesn't mean you do it, all right? So let's go to Exodus 23 and 2. It reads, thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many, to wrest judgment. Okay, so don't follow the multitude to do evil. Just because the masses are doing something, it doesn't mean you go and do it, all right? No, man, you gotta, this part of this ministry is having integrity for the truth, having integrity towards Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, okay? It says in verse 4, ye shall walk after Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai your power, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him, and cleave unto him. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he hath spoken to you, he hath spoken to turn you away from Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai your power, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai thy power commanded thee to walk in. So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee. Okay? So when you turn away somebody who's trying to take you away from this ministry, trying to take you away from the truth, trying to take you away from Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, guess what? You're putting the evil away from the midst of thee. You're like, like Yahweh Shai, when he told Peter, he said, get behind me, Satan, right? Because Peter was in the wrong mindset, he was in the wrong spirit. He had a lack of judgment for a moment when he was telling Yahweh Shai that, you don't have to, suffer these things. You don't have to be put to death. Yahweh Shai was like, get behind me, Satan, because Yahweh Shai knew the will of Yahweh. He knew that he had to go up on that cross. Okay, so you're putting evil away from the midst of you when you follow the Lord with all your heart, and you don't listen to naysayers or gainsayers or people who are not in line in the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And those people could even be your family members, and could be your wife, your children. Okay, we are commanded to put Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai first. Okay, verse 6. If thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or thy wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is as thine own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, namely the gods of the people which are round about you, talking about the heathen. Okay, you get Jake women and men, they want to go follow the gods of the heathen. They're like, let's go. I'm a Buddhist. I follow the ways of Buddha, or you know what? I'm gonna join the Nation of Islam. I'm gonna become a Muslim. You see, you have our people doing that shit all the time. But if they try to entice you to pull you away from this ministry, this truth, then you're allowing that man or woman to take the crown away from you. Okay, and the scriptures say, let no man or woman take away thy crown, right? Let's get that. I think it's Revelation 3, somewhere in Revelation 3. Let no man take away thy crown, KJV. Yeah, Revelation 3 and 11. So let's go to that. See, we're going to, the ones who endure unto the end, we're going to receive. I don't know what the hell that's all about. But anyway, we're going to receive a crown of righteousness, okay? A crown that does not fade, it's not corruptible. It's an eternal crown for the men who are able to endure unto the end, okay? All right, Salakia. So let's go to Revelation 3, and I'll read 10. It says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. And we know that hour of temptation is dealing with that MOTB, right? That mark of the beast, the RFID CHIP. But guess what? We also know that because we're keeping the word of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, and we're being patient, meaning we're suffering, right, on behalf of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. We know that he's going to keep his true soldiers, his elect, from that hour of temptation, where we won't take that RFID CHIP no matter what, right? We're going to endure to the end. It says, verse 11, behold, I come quickly, hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown, no woman either. You can include women in that. You're not. If you're sincere in this ministry, ain't no woman, ain't no man, ain't no family member, ain't no your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. Nobody's gonna be able to influence you to where you're gonna be doing some foul shit in this. The men of the Lord, we know what it is. That's my new phrase I've been saying in my videos. But we know what it is. We know that there's nothing that comes before or prioritizes above the ministry, or above, keeping it real towards Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. All right? You see the image on my screen, it shows an Israelite man, looking, let down, despaired, a little bit, feeling contriteful, remorseful. And this is the type of things that we would actually feel and go through if we were to, when we have something that vexes our spirit, But let me keep reading. It says, namely of the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from the one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. Thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shalt thine eye pity him, neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal him. So anybody who's trying to take you away from the ministry, you don't spare their feelings. You gotta set them straight. Like, yo, I'm doing this for Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai. And if you don't like it, then you can, kick rocks. We don't need anybody who is, trying to come against the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And really, through the spirit, you would want to remove that type of person or that type of spirit from you. Okay? Like, what for do we need them? What type of help or aid will somebody like that do for us while we're here dealing with, what we're already dealing with here in Babylon? The oppression, the vexation of spirit, dealing with having to work with, the 2/3, having to work with the heathen, having to work with these people who are doing all kinds of abominable things day in and day out, right? And we just have to sit there with patience, and keep enduring, you see? It says in verse 9, but thou shalt surely kill him. Thine hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. And thou shalt stone him with the stones that he die, because he hath sought to thrust thee away from the Lord thy power, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt and from the house of bondage. All right. So this shows you, this is why we need Yahweh Shai as our mediator, because we can't just go and stone somebody who's trying to, pull us out the ministry in any shape, way, or form, right? We can't turn around and like stone and kill somebody, right? That's a law. So can we keep that law here in Babylon? The answer is no. All right. That's why the verse reads, here is the patience and the faith of the saints, because you have to be patient. We have to suffer in this ministry. We have to suffer because there's things that we just can't do, right? We can't do these things. Now in the kingdom, will this law be upheld? Absolutely. Absolutely. This in the kingdom, all the laws are going to be upheld in righteousness, okay? But we can't do that here in Babylon, obviously, right? Verse 11, and all Israel shall hear and fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this is among you, right? So this is going to be done as an example, We're going to be keeping the laws as an example, as putting fear on the people. People are going to think twice, namely the heathen, if they try to entice, the Israelites or really anybody for that matter. When the kingdom is established, if the heathen, because they're the only ones going to go off, listen, we're going to be keeping these laws in effect. They're going to get stoned. If you have a Moabite walking up to a fucking Elamite and saying, hey, let's go eat some pork, let's go eat some rats, well, guess what? That person is going to be put to death, stoned on the spot. And we're going to know, because we're going to have those spiritual powers. You're not going to be able to lie to us, because we're going to have spiritual powers to the point where we know your thoughts, we know what you did, we know your actions. Remember, it says we're going to be like gods, right? So the Most High knows our sins, so why would we not know the sins of the heathen in the kingdom? There's not going to be no trials, you're not going to have no court processing, this and that. No, it's going to be instant judgment on the spot, okay? Verse 12, if thou shalt hear say in one of thy cities, which which Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai thy power hath given thee to dwell there, saying, certain men, the children of Belial, are gone out from among you, and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which ye have not known. Then shalt thou inquire and make search and ask diligently, and behold, if it be truth, and the thing certain, that such abomination is wrought among you, thou shalt surely smite the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle thereof, and the edge of with the edge of the sword. So these type of things are going to be upheld in the kingdom. You know, the children of Belial, right? These are basically people who are outside, rebellious people who are rebelling against the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, in this ministry, in this truth. You try to pull that in the kingdom, and guess what? That whole city will go down by the sword. Because, like I said, we're going to keep the laws in perfection in the kingdom. Then shall thou inquire. Oh, wait. So, yeah. So we're going to, well, in the kingdom, we're not even going to have to inquire. Because, like I said, we're going to know. But this was a law, you know, that we were supposed to keep, you know, in the, in the past, which we failed to do in perfection. Right? So that's why it says, then shalt thou inquire and make a search and ask diligently. In the kingdom, we're not going to need to ask. We're going to know, like I was saying earlier. Thou shalt surely smite the inhabitants. Oh, I read that. So verse 16, it says, and thou shalt gather all the spoil of it in the midst of the street thereof, and shalt burn with fire the city and all the spoil thereof every whit. For the Lord thy power, and it shall be an heap forever, and it shall not be built again. So a city that was going off like that, you know, when the Israelites had power and the heathen were in subjection to us, you would just burn up that city and all the spoil. You wouldn't even take the spoil, and you would just let it be a heap, right, in the middle of the land, where you just, it wouldn't be, it'd be more for like a memorial. Like, yo, remember that city? They fucked up and the Israelites took care of them. You know, in the kingdom, yeah, the heathen, if they're going to be dwelling together and they go choose to fuck up, they choose to eat pork, they choose to break the laws, guess what? We're going to be on their ass. And we're going to keep these, we're going to uphold these laws. There's not going to be no idolatry in the kingdom. And if the heathen try and pull the idolatry, these are the laws that are going to be carried out against them. Okay? And thou shalt gather all this. Well, I just read that. Verse 17. And there shall cleave not of the cursed thing to thine hand, that the Lord Yahweh may turn from the fierceness of his anger, and show thee mercy, and have a compassion upon thee, and multiply thee as he hath sworn unto thy fathers. Right? So it's actually going to be righteous to execute judgment on the heathen. Like I said, we can't do this right now, okay? We can't do this right now. We're in captivity. You can't keep the laws of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai to perfection while you're in captivity. So you have camps who try to push the laws, you know, and disregarding that whole notion that we don't have the ability to keep the laws in perfection. That doesn't mean we abandon the laws. No, we keep the laws that we're able to keep, you know. Which that's why you have to read and be diligent and study, because so you know the laws of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. And then you have that spirit of discernment, right? That's going to allow you to keep the laws that you know you can keep while you're here in captivity. But there are so many laws that we cannot keep here in our captivity, okay? So you have to have a spirit of discernment, okay? It says, when thou shalt hearken to the voice of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai thy power, to keep all his commandments which I command thee this day, to do that which is right in the eyes of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai thy power. Okay? So again, we are in captivity. It's impossible to keep the laws. right? And this image right here, it shows a Hebrew Israelite man. If you know, if you do break laws or if you do sin, that should make you feel vexed in your spirit. You should feel bad, you know, and you should have a spirit of repentance on you, okay? But for now, like I say, we are in captivity. We can't keep the laws. The only time we're going to keep the laws in perfection is when we get those new bodies. Matter of fact, as long as we're in the flesh, we're not able to keep these laws to perfection. You see? But judgment, the laws are going to be upheld in the kingdom, you know. The heathen will receive quick judgment, quick, concise, on-the-spot judgment for breaking the laws. And we are going to, the Israelites, starting out with the 144,000, we're going to be those men executing judgment in the kingdom of heaven. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and close out on that note. So with that, I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect. Shalom.